lovers, and welcome back to my channel. There is a Love is Blind season 1 baby on the way. I think this brings our grand total of official Love is Blind babies, not counting the babies that Love is Blind alumni have with other people. The first one I think was Bliss and Zach. Then there was Alexa and Brennan. And now this is the third one, but I feel like there's a fourth one that I'm forgetting. But nonetheless, it's Barnett and Amber from season 1 of the show. In fact, Barnett and Amber, Lauren and Cameron are the two couples that were married on season 1 of the show. And they're still going strong 6 years later now, which is just such a crazy thought, right? So they did an interview together on Cameron and Lauren's new podcast called The Love Seat. Mind you, Brett and Tiffany did also participate in promo for this podcast. So I believe that their episode is going to be coming up soon as well. I do think that Lauren and Cameron were smart to debut with their fellow season 1 castmates, Amber and Barnett. So, they talked a little bit about their relationship, what really went on the show, and in regards to their relationship, how the edit they got was something that really pissed off Amber, and she's, very much against the franchise, the producers, the show, and everything to this day, and different things like that. I was listening to it late last night as I was doing some random chores around the house, and I gotta say, I was thoroughly entertained by all the information that they brought out there. Granted, this aired 5 years ago going on now. And so, kind of is old news as far as, the news cycle goes and everything like that. But it still is rather interesting to, find out little tidbits here and there. For example, Amber let it be known that on their wedding night, she and Barnett, they got it on in the attic of the wedding venue. Much to the dismay of the producers who were, running around looking for them as they were getting it on in the attic in front of Santa Claus, who did not consent to being there, right? It was a plastic Santa Claus, you guys, by the way, not the real deal. Amber also talked about her rivalry, or sort of, her dislike for Jessica Batten from the show, who was involved in a love triangle with her and Barnett. She said that she didn't appreciate the way that Jessica was pursuing Barnett behind her back and everything like that. But she also didn't appreciate production for consistently making her talk about it. She felt it wasn't that big of a deal to the overall love story that she shares with Barnett, but that the production made it seem like a much bigger deal than it was for TV purposes. She was asked a million times about Jessica in a million different ways. And so sometimes she would just give the answer that she felt as though they wanted to hear in order to allow her to move on with her life and with her day. Because, she feels as though sometimes she was held hostage, waiting for a certain answer. Barnett also talked about the finance, and this is something that Amber is still very much upset about, which I totally understand. I would be upset too. She said that they portrayed her as the ultimate brokey, couch surfing girl on the show, and that they made it seem as though Barnett paid off her student loans by selling off his house, and none of that is true. She worked hard to pay off her own student loans, and Barnett worked hard to pay off his own student loans. In fact, that is why he sold off his house. I do wish that Lauren and Cameron asked him if he regretted that, because I know he bought his house early before the prices were crazy, and then shortly after COVID hits, right? And the prices double, triple pretty much overnight. There were bidding wars everywhere. So I kind of wonder why, and I'm kind of curious about it too. Why didn't he just put his college debt and put perhaps her college debt into the mortgage, and then they would have a much lower interest rate, right? But I digress. They seem to be really happy living downtown. That's another question that I had. Are they still living in that downtown apartment with their roommate? Have they moved out? What is their current living situation? That was another interesting question that Lauren and Cameron, I feel dropped the ball on asking, or perhaps they asked, but it got lost in post-production. I don't know, but that's definitely something that I am curious about. So Amber talks about how they've been enjoying married life for the past couple of years. They talked about how at first they would have these major blowout fights, and how Amber would be okay, well, I'm headed out. I'm gonna drop it like it's hot with my girls, and Barnett would take a look at her sexy outfits and say, no, rip it off, and they would shag, when they would be upset with each other. And so I thought that was a kind of hot and heavy story. They're still into something called Dragon Con, which I guess is a Comic Con, but for, I don't know, dragon mystical characters, not sure. And here is a blink and you'll miss it announcement of the pregnancy, photo of the pregnancy and the bump. in Amber's Instagram post. She shared a series of like photos, like, you know, in rapid succession. You see my finger like that. I had to like stop, pause after each frame in order to grab this one. It wasn't around for long. Like I said, blink and you will miss it. So here they are expecting their first baby together. I know that this is something that Amber has wanted for a really long time. You know, she did have a medical setback. Again, you know what? I did say I enjoyed this, but like thinking back and now like speaking about it with you guys, there were a lot of subjects where I'm kind of like, well, why didn't this come up? Like, you know, for example, the pregnancy and everything like that. Why didn't Lauren and Cameron ask her about her medical situation? She has epilepsy, right? And that was something that they talked about on After the Altar. She had fainted or something like that. She had a seizure or something like that. And then she was diagnosed with this. And she talked about how she wants to have a baby soon because like the older she is, the worse this condition will get. Like, you know, I'm curious about how she's doing with that. Is she in better health? How she's managing pregnancy and this condition at the same time? Things like that. So I do wish that those things were asked. But, you know, again, listen, this was their first episode. Lauren and Cameron are not, you know, and I don't say this in a derogatory way or a mean way, but it's just a factual thing. They're not journalists, right? So, you know, maybe that's why these sorts of kind of pertinent and important questions, you know, especially in light of the last, you know, public bit of information we got from Barnett and Amber, like, you know, that's probably why these things fell through the crack. But nonetheless, it was a really, really good interview. I definitely recommend listening to it if you too were a fan of season 1 of the show and you want to kind of see what, you know, what was really going on behind the scenes, where they're at these days in their relationship, and yeah, all that fun stuff. What do you think about all of this? Are you surprised to see Amber and Barnett, Lauren and Cameron all still together, or is this kind of what you expected? I feel like it's kind of what I expected, you know? Like, I feel like season 1 of Love is Blind was just so damn authentic. I feel like, yeah, like, of course, you know, the allure of TV was really, you know, there as well, but not like it is today, you know. So I do think that Lauren, Cameron, Amber, and Barnett are all very genuine people who were doing the show for the right reasons. And there's 6 going on 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, however long, you know, hopefully forever, marriages are proof of that. So congratulations to the Fab Four, the original 4. There will never be another season like this. It was so wonderful to see them all reunited. Congratulations to Amber on her pregnancy. Congratulations to Barnett as well. You know, I'm wishing the two of them a lot of luck with their growing family. Congrats to Lauren and Cameron on their podcast. And, you know, I hope I'm not overstepping when I say this, but I felt like Lauren and Cameron, you know, and I was about to close out this video, but now I kind of just want to say it. I felt like there were certain moments where Lauren and Cameron could have like shared their own side of things too. But I guess they didn't want to take too much spotlight from Amber and Barnett. I don't know, but that's one thing I typically love about podcasts. It feels like the host shares a lot about themselves too, you know, but it felt like they were asking a lot of, you know, great questions to Barnett and Amber, but they never really gave their own perspective on how things are in their own relationship, in their own marriage, right? They talked about how, like, you know, oh, like there are big fights, you know, like every relationship has these big fights. We had to learn to work through them. What were your big, it's like, okay, so Barnett and Amber answer those, but then I'm kind of left curious about what, you know, what Lauren and Cameron were going through, right? And then, you know, I know that Lauren and Cameron have kind of touched on this a little bit, how they have been trying to have a child for a while and everything like that. I wonder if that's something, you know, certainly doesn't have to be, but I do wonder if that's something they're going to talk about as their show, as their podcast progresses, you know, what that's been like for them, you know, with so many people asking all the time, and now seeing, you know, other couples who got married, you know, after them, or, you know, in the case of Barnett and Amber at the same time as them, like, you know, starting to have kids, and then like the pressure that they feel on top of that being like the gold standard couple and everything like that. And we're still in a society where everyone feels as though you have to have kids and stuff like that, you know, how all of that is, you know, affecting them, you know, individually or in their marriage and their relationship and everything like that. I do think that that would be a very interesting and vulnerable, you know, conversation for the two of them to have with the audience. I really, really do hope that they let us in that way. And I want to know more about like the family dynamics, not like, you know, I want to know about Lauren's dynamic with Cameron's family, because if you were like eagle-eyed the way that I'm eagle-eyed, you would see that there are some things there that are pointing to perhaps there not being, you know, some great relationships between Cameron's family and Lauren. I think that Cameron seems to get along with Lauren's family, but the reverse doesn't seem to be 1,000% true. Hopefully that changes, but listen, I'm just saying. Let me know what you think about all this, you guys, in the comment section down below. And as usual, we'll chat, okay? That's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.